How many games will the Eagles win in 2025? What's going on, Eagles fans? It's your boy Mail Jones here. We back with another NFL rec prediction, and this time we'll be predicting the Philadelphia Eagles schedule for a 2025 NFL season. I'm gonna give you my game analysis and my game thoughts. See which games I think the Eagles will win and which games I think the Eagles will lose. So before I give you my record prediction for the Eagles Fly record prediction for a 2025 NFL season, don't forget to put the thumbs up to like the video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and comment down your opinion below to see how far you think the Eagles will be. Do you think they'll win the division and make the playoffs, or you think they'll miss out on the playoffs? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. All right, so week one, they play at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Um, this is gonna be a fun game to watch. This is on a Thursday night in prime time. I think the Cowboys will be a good team this year, but at the same time, this game is in Philly, where it's a tough place to play at, and the environment in Philly is gonna go crazy in this game. But I usually go with the Super Bowl champions to win in week one. So as much as I like Dallas, I think Philly will win just because the Eagles are at home. They're the more complete team. And the Cowboys' issues is their offensive line, their run defense, and their ability to run the football. And I think the Eagles will run the ball better than the Cowboys. And I think, at the same time, I just really think that, the Eagles' defensive line can totally take advantage of a young offensive line in Dallas. So yeah, I just think the Eagles, are just a slightly better team, and I just really think they'll find more ways to win. So yeah, so that's why I think the Eagles will win that game. Week two, I think against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. Obviously, I just have a feeling that this game right here is going to be very interesting. Though it could go either way, but I'm leaning towards Philly, and the reason for it is that I just have a feeling that the Eagles, can match the Chiefs' physicality because they pretty much have the offensive line to at least stalemate the Chiefs' pass rush. And I think the Eagles' defensive line is probably going to give, I just think, I just have a feeling that the Eagles' defense, with their pass rush, I think they can get after Mahomes and full Mahomes like they did in that Super Bowl. Because I thought Vic Fangio did a really good job, keeping Mahomes on his toes. And I still think, Vic Fangio can totally get him a couple times. And I think, the Eagles, with their solid secondary, I think they'll match up well with the Chiefs receivers really good. And on top of that, I just don't really think the Chiefs defense is going to be able to deal with the skill group of the Eagles weaponry. Because they got to deal with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, So basically, this game right here is going to be close and competitive, but I would not be shocked if the Chiefs won. If the Chiefs won, that would be great. But I feel like the only way if they can win is that if they can find a way to not let the Eagles offense get after them, and then if they offense can put up a good game plan and control the game, keep Hurts on sidelines, which I think that will allow the Eagles to Chiefs to win this game. But it will be close, it will be fun. But I'm going with the Eagles here in week two. Week three against the Rams, this is another playoff rematch. This game right here can go either way. Now, I think the Rams will be a good team again, but the Rams pass rush is very solid and is very good. So basically, I feel like this game right here will be interesting, though. I think it will be close, but I remember this game was in the snow and the Rams almost pulled it off. Now the question is, can they do it again? We don't know, because last year in the regular season, the Eagles did win this game where they rush for 300 yards. But at the same time, I'm leaning towards Philly because I think the Eagles are just a much more complete team. And I just think the Eagles, on defense can give the Rams offense some issues and make Matthew Stafford a little uncomfortable. And I think the Eagles do have the secondary to match up well with the Rams receivers. So I feel like as long as you don't really give up big plays to Devontae Adams and Nakua, I think you should be fine. So I just really think that, the Rams, their secondary is not good because they don't have any corners. They like to play zone, not man. So I think the Eagles can get after that because the Rams don't really have the cover guys to match up well with the Eagles' receiving core. So, yeah. But the Rams' pass rush is really good. So I think maybe there's a chance the Eagles' offensive line can stalemate that. So, yeah. So I think it will be close, but I think the Eagles will pull this one off. Next game, week 4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another game that can go either way. But at the same time, the Bucs have played the Eagles tough, though, throughout the last couple of seasons, especially with Tom Brady was quarterback. But I don't know. I feel like the Eagles, do struggle with Bowles blitzing because Bowles does a really good job of preparing for mobile quarterbacks. But I feel like there's a chance that the Eagles can get after the Bucs secondary if they can get their offense going. But I think this game will be close. I think it will be competitive. But I will lean towards the Eagles to win to get their revenge on the Buccaneers, just what the Bucs did over last season. So yeah, I think the Eagles can really get after that Bucs secondary because if Bowles tries to blitz too much, I feel like they'll be in trouble and Hurts can totally make him pay. Because I feel like the Eagles offensively can stay balanced and keep the Bucs defense off balance. And I think the Eagles offensive line can overpower the Bucs pass rush. Because the Bucs defense sometimes is average, sometimes is below average. Sometimes they like to play soft coverage against good teams. So yeah. But I feel like the only way the Bucs can win this game is that if their defense can get after Hurts and all that. So yeah. But I think Eagles win. I know the game's in Tampa Bay, and it could be tough the place to play, but I feel like the Eagles are just a much more complete team. So, yeah. So, I like the Eagles here to win that game. Next game against the Denver Broncos. I think they'll beat the Broncos just because I feel like the Broncos, I just don't really think the Broncos have, I just don't really think their offense is going to be much explosive enough to at least get after that Eagles defense. Because I think Vic Fangio, this is the Vic Fangio revenge game. So I think Vic Fangio will find a way to confuse Bo Nix and make him and get him under pressure. Because I think the Eagles defensive line can get after Bo Nix. And the Broncos don't really have a lot of scary weapons. But I think the Eagles secondary can totally play some sticky coverage against that. So, yeah, and despite the Broncos having a good defensive line, I think the Eagles' offensive line is good enough to stalemate that. That'll lead to them keeping their offense on balance, where it allows the Broncos' defense to cause some mistakes where they're soft. So, yeah, but I think the game could totally be tough though. But I just really think that the Eagles, will win because they just have the better quarterback. They're at home, and the coaches are pretty even, and I think they're the pretty much slightly better team. So I lean towards the Eagles. Week 6 against the New York Giants on a Thursday short week. This is kind of a tricky game, but I lean towards Eagles just because, the Eagles are just the slightly better team. And I just don't know and have the better quarterback and coaching staff. I just don't know who the Giants starting at quarterback. Russell Wilson could play in this game. It could be interesting. Maybe Jameis Winston or Jackson Dart, who knows? It could be one of those guys. because I don't think the Giants' offensive line can match up well with the Eagles really well. Can match up with the Eagles really well because the Eagles' defensive line is really strong and they're tough on offense, which I don't think the Giants are going to be able to overcome that. So I think the Eagles will win against the Giants, even though the game's in New York, which is tough. But the Giants could be interesting though because the Giants, they have a really good defensive line, but their offensive line is sketchy. But their defensive line, with their front four fluent with Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns, like that's a game that the Giants could steal. But I just don't see it happening. But now, the next game they play against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. I think this is where I think the Eagles will get their first loss here. So I'm going to take the Vikings to pull off this sneaky upset. I think Brian Flores has a recipe to get after Jalen Hurts and keep him under pressure because the Vikings have a really good pass rush that can really fool Jalen Hurts and get after him. But their secondary could be a little suspect because they have no corners. But if the Eagles can't find a way to get after that secondary of Minnesota, then I feel like that the Vikings defense will probably come up with some big plays and like force them into some second, third, and longs. So yeah. So basically, and also the Vikings do have an improved offensive line, which I think they'll do a good job like controlling your pass rush. And I think they got some good weapons on offense that the Eagles got to deal with. They got Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hockenson, Jordan Addison. Like that's a lot to ask. I think J.J. can put up a good game here. So yeah, but I wouldn't rule out the Eagles winning this game. But because the Eagles are a slightly better team and better quarterback from a talent standpoint, but I just feel like the Vikings in Minnesota is tough environment because they got to deal with that crowd noise and all that and the environment and the communication. So yeah, that's why I got the Vikings winning that game. But I think it will be close though, but it could be low scoring. The next game, week 8 against the Giants, I think they'll beat the Giants once again to sweep the season series because the Giants, they're not a good team. Like they're not going to make the playoffs because, they're not going to have much to play for. The Eagles are fighting for a playoff spot. Eagles are just a slightly better team overall, and that's why I think they'll sweep the Giants once again. Then they get to bye week 9. Then in week 10, they got to play on the road against the Green Bay Packers on a Monday night and Lambeau. This is kind of tough environment. This is kind of tricky. A lot of people are picking Philly to win because they're coming off a bye, which they have extra time to prepare. But playing in Green Bay is kind of tough, though, because, Green Bay is good at home. Their offense is very good. They can run the ball. They have a solid offensive line. They got good weapons that are young. Their defense is okay, but not great. But I don't know. But I'm leaning Packers just because I think the Packers at home are really tough. And it could be weather dependent on because it could be cold down there in Lambeau. Who knows? It could be snowing in early November. And I just think the Packers offensively can control the game, keep Hurts on the sidelines and all that. So yeah. And their defense is solid. They can match up well with the Eagles really good. And I think they can outlast them and they can match the Eagles' physicality. Because I think the Packers defense can really give, the Eagles offense some issues through the running and passing game. But if Jair's not there, I don't think the Packers defense will have an answer for those pass catchers of Philly. So yeah. So I think it will be close, but I'm leaning Packers. And don't forget, the Eagles did beat them twice last year. They beat them in the regular season and the playoffs. But this time, I think Green Bay will win because they're at home in this game. Then next game, week 11 against the Lions. This is going to be an interesting game. This is a game that could totally go either way. Obviously, people are leaning towards Detroit because Detroit could be the much more complete team because they have more physicality and they're aggressive and they be in your face. But at the same time, Jared Goff outdoors is not really good. But I'm going with the Eagles here just because the Lions do struggle against mobile quarterbacks. That's their weaknesses. And I think Jalen Hurts can totally outduel Goff in this game. And the reason for that is that I think Jalen Eagles offensively can at least they can like match the Lions' physicality because I think their offensive line can stalemate the Lions' pass rush, and I think their defensive line can totally give Goff some issues, despite the Lions having a good offensive line. But I feel like the only way the Eagles are going to win the line of scrimmage is that they're going to have to stop the run and stop the passing game of the Lions because, the Eagles defense have to deal with Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams. Like, that's a lot to ask. On the other side, the Lions defense sometimes play too much man coverage. So, and Jalen Hurts sometimes is good at being man coverage. So I feel like I feel like the Eagles will get the ball out quick to get the receivers open. So yeah, I think this game will be close. It could be a high scoring game, but I expected maybe a low scoring game. But at the same time, I think the Eagles pull this one off. Then week 12 against the Dallas Cowboys. I think they'll split with the Cowboys. So I give the Cowboys a win here just because the Cowboys typically play the Eagles hard. And the Cowboys do have more to play for because I just really think that, like, I just feel like the Cowboys can match up well with the Eagles really good. And I feel like Dak will outduel Hurts in one game. And I just really feel like, that their defense, I feel like Parsons will go crazy. I think CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens will go crazy in that game. And the Cowboys might have more to play for because they could be a team that they might make the playoffs or they barely miss it. So that's why I think the Eagles will split the season series. And don't forget last season, the Eagles did sweep the Cowboys last year. That's without Dak Prescott, but I don't see it this year. So yeah. The next game, week 13, against the Chicago Bears at home on a Friday. I got the Eagles winning because the Bears, they might be a good team this year, but their offensive line did improve. They got good weapons. Caleb's in his second year, but their defense is a little bit, it's okay, but not great. I think the Eagles offensively can totally take advantage of that. And I just don't really know if, and the Bears have a rookie head coach and Ben Johnson. So that's something you got to know of. I just don't think the Bears really have the coaching to out scheme the Eagles because I think the Eagles as a defense can totally give Caleb some fits. Like, I think they can get after Caleb, they can get after their passing game and all that. So yeah. And I don't think the Bears are going to be able to run the ball on the Eagles, especially the Eagles do have a high powered defense as well. I think they can get pressure on Caleb. So yeah. And I just don't really think the Bears are going to be able to hang in that game. So I think the Eagles will win, and they'll probably get up early and probably blow the Bears out. But I wouldn't be shocked if this game was close if the Bears put up a fight. But I think the Eagles will find more ways to win and probably make less mistakes and all that. So yeah, I think the Eagles will win, but I think the only way if the Eagles can get up early, I think they'll blow the Bears out. So yeah. So I think the Eagles win that game. Next game against the week 14 against the Chargers on a Monday night. This game right here is tricky. It could go either way. This could be a trap game though because the Chargers are a team that you could definitely get in trouble with because the Chargers are really good at home in LA and they fight really well. And all of a sudden, they got Jim Harbaugh, they got Herbert, they got a solid offensive line. Their defense is solid, but not spectacular. But they got good running backs in Harris and Hampton. They got one good receiver in Lad McConkey. So I don't know, man. I think this game right here is going to be close and it will be competitive, though. But this can go either way, though. But at the same time, I lean Eagles here. And here's why. I just really think that the Eagles, they have the better receiving core. They're the more complete team. And I just really think they're a better version of the Chargers because I don't really know if the Chargers really have the coaching to out scheme the Eagles. And Vic Fangio have given Justin Herbert tons of fits. I think with his defensive game plan, I feel like that he'll find a way to like confuse Herbert and like get after Herbert with their defensive line and make him go under pressure. And I just don't really think the Chargers really have a lot of explosive weapons to at least get after the Eagles secondary. So I think I just think the secondary of Philly will play some sticky covers against an underwhelming receiving core because outside Lab McConkey, they don't have nobody else. So maybe their defense can lock them down. Like as long as they don't really give up big plays to like Lab McConkey, they should be fine. And I just really think that the Chargers, I just don't really think they really have the cover guys to like cover the Eagles receivers. And I don't think they'll have an answer for AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, or Dallas Goedert. Like those guys will have a good game here. So yeah. So I think the Eagles will win on the last possession. So yeah. But I think the only way the Chargers win this game is that their defense can like at least like find a way to at least like get after Herbert, get after Hurts and get a pass run on him. So yeah, so basically, yeah, I know it's in LA, but I think the Eagles are just a much more physical team, and that's why I think Philly will win. Next game against the Raiders, I got them beating the Raiders just because I just don't really think the Raiders are a good team. Like their offensive line is about average. They got some weird weapons, but at the same time, they don't have a vertical threat at wide receiver to at least like expose the Eagles secondary. But the Eagles secondary is really good. I think they'll find a way to at least like match up well and like lock down the Raiders weaponry that will force the Raiders to run the ball, force Geno to hold on to the ball and make some mistakes. Because the Eagles defensive line is legit and they'll find a way to get after Geno. And plus the Eagles do have the better defense as well and have better weaponry. And the Raiders in the secondary are very weak, and they don't really have the cover guys to like match up well with AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. So yeah, that's going to be a problem for that Raiders defense, and that's why I think the Eagles will win that game at home. So yeah, especially they're a more talented team. Week 16, they got to play against the Washington Commanders on a Saturday. This is a game that can go either way. But personally, I think the Commanders will beat the Eagles once just because, the Commanders, last year they beat them without Jalen Hurts. But I think in one game, I think Jaden Daniels will outduel Hurts. So, yeah. But I feel like the Commanders might take a step back this year, but they might have more to play for because they could be a team that might make the playoffs or they could totally barely miss it. So, yeah. I think Commanders will be a playoff team this year, but I just don't really know if the Commanders, really have, what it takes. So yeah, I just think Commanders will win at home. And then the last game, week 18, they play them. I think they'll beat the Commanders the first time, but I could see the Eagles win the first game and losing the last game, depending on if one of these teams need to win to make the playoffs. Because I think the Eagles will be a playoff team this year. Commanders have more to play for because they might be a team that might make the playoffs, or they could barely miss it. So yeah, I think the Commanders did improve this offseason a little bit. So yeah, especially at wide receiver. So yeah. So I think that's why I think they'll both split. Then last game, week 17, they play versus the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, I think this game right here can go either way. Most people could be leaning Eagles because they think the Eagles, can run the ball better. And the Bills, may not be, they're not really good against overpowering running teams. But you know what? Their defensive line did improve a little bit. But I feel like in one game, I feel like if the Eagles can run the ball and probably get some pressure on Josh Allen, like control the game, keeping Josh Allen on the sidelines, I think there's a chance the Eagles can win because I think they did that a few years ago because the game was pretty close. It went to overtime and the Bills should have won that game. But the Eagles, won that game by a touchdown. But at the same time, it depended on the weather. I'm gonna lean Bills for now, but I can totally change my mind. The reason why I lean towards the Bills because playing in Buffalo is a tricky place to play at. It could be cold, And I just really think that, Josh Allen will be ridiculous in the snow. And I think that the Bills, another reason why I think the Bills will win is because I think their defensive line can like give the Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts tons of fits. And I think with their secondary, they're good at and playing pass defense. I think they can at least get after the Eagles passing game because all the Eagles want to do is run the ball. So yeah. So yeah. So at the same time, I think the Bills will win because they got the better quarterback and the better passing game. And I think the Bills will do much to control the game, keep Jalen Hurts on the sideline, which I think that will allow, the Bills to win the game. But I think it will be close. It will be a fun game to watch, but I think the Bills will win this game. So basically, I have the Eagles going 12-5, which that's pretty good enough to make the playoffs and good enough to win the division. So basically, yeah, I can see them being as good as 13-4, 14-3. So yeah, due to an easy schedule. So yeah, I think it could happen. So as you look at the Eagles schedule, it's tough. They have to play the Cowboys twice. They play the Chiefs, the Rams, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Packers, the Lions, the Bears, the Chargers, the Commanders twice, and the Bills. And the only teams they don't play is like the Ravens, Bengals, and Niners. So yeah, so basically they play like all the like good teams on their schedule. Like it could be tough. Like some games I could totally see the Eagles losing or winning. Like I could see them losing to Tampa Bay. I can see them lose shockingly to the Giants once. I could see them lose to the Lions. I could see them lose to the Chargers. In some games I could see them winning. I could see them beat the Vikings or beat the Bills. Or yeah, I can see them losing to the Chiefs or Rams. Like, yeah, like some games I can see the Eagles losing. So yeah, I think 12-5 sounds about right for Philly. I think they'll go somewhere from like 11 to 13 wins. But I think 10 will probably be at worst if Hurts miss a couple games and their defense start to fall apart a little bit and the offense can't keep it going. And I think they'll have a high floor, if Hurts can stay healthy and the defense start to continue to play at a high level. So yeah, so I think the Eagles will probably go somewhere from like. So I think 12-5 sounds about right for them. But I do have Philly win division, and 12-5 is good enough for them to win a division in 2025, and I think they will once again in 2025. But I don't know if they're gonna at least go on a. I don't know if they can like run it back to repeat as Super Bowl champions again. But I feel like 12-5 is probably the best record for Philly to win the division. So yeah, so let me know in the comments section below what you guys think, you know, about the Eagles and all that. So yeah. Well, this is Emmanuel Jones from Big Fan. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. So yeah. Well, that's all for now. See you guys later. Peace.